Borough Council special budget meeting to order. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded for public consumption. This time, please rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brenner?
Yes.
Councilmember Stanko?
Yes.
Councilmember Reimer?
Yes.
Councilmember Mogul?
Here.
Councilmember Barnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Weinhofer?
Yes.
And Council President Jenks?
Yes, here. Okay, before we go any further, council is going to go into executive session to discuss police employee issues which may affect the budget discussions. This time, all those parties.
Why don't we go? So
That's what I'm saying. All those parties, we're going to go into the library.
we are going to library.
That's what I just said. Going to the library. Meeting of Borough Council back into session. We did go into executive session to discuss a police discipline issue. And at this time, we will now move on to public comment as it relates to agenda items. I request that your comments be limited to 5 minutes. So at this time, I'll open it up to public comment. Who has any public comments?
Bob started off, said, I'm getting a lot of phone calls over the last week or so.
Talk
And-
louder, please.
Sure.
State your name,
Yeah. My name?
name and address. Yeah.
Banco. I got a lot of calls over the last week and a half about what happened last week and what happened this week. And everyone's noticed that our issue involving taxes, it went down 0.250, and no one seems to know where that came from. And some people have said, well, if we found 0.250, maybe we can find another 5.20 and drop it further. But since I don't know the answer, and I'm sure many of you would like to have the answer, that's where I thought I would start the game. Thank you.
Someone wish to address Ron?
How to address a public comment?
You may, if you.
All I can tell you is,
I mean, there's really two reasons.
Two reasons.
Draft 6 is taking out the increase to the road tax and the general tax, so it's only a 1 millage increase. And since last week's meeting, we finalized our insurance premium renewals with an unanticipated but good news cost savings of close to $100,000. And I got the final RDA reimbursement forms for the RACP grant for the Public Works garage, and where we had budgeted for 2.4 mil, we're going to be closer to almost 2.7 million. So there's roughly an additional 250,000 coming in for that reimbursement.
the reason it wasn't discussed is because you know darn well that we're not allowed to discuss this stuff unless it's in a public meeting. So here we are having the public meeting. So yes, and Michelle, your point with the insurance is not that we saved $100,000. Please don't anybody think that. What we budgeted versus what the actual numbers coming in at are $100,000 less than what we budgeted. So it's not a decrease in our budget number. It's an increase in our budget number, but it's a decrease on what we thought was coming in. And we didn't get it until after the fact, until after last Tuesday's meeting.
The 1.5 mils went down to 1 mil.
1.25.
1.25, so it's a quarter mil. Okay.
That answers that one. The reimbursements are, we just got a bigger reimbursement. Some of that was supposed to come in 2025. I'm not going to answer for the state why it didn't come in 2025, but now we'll get some in 2026.
Well, we're still at a 17% increase.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm sorry.
Okay, very good. Are there any other public comments?
Yes, sir.
State your name and address.
Adrian Jenny, 48 Cardinal Road. So I'd like here to address, I'm going to go a little bit faster than this speech. I'll provide it for the secretary. I want to address two issues. Number one is process, and number two is substance. on process is, as of last night, the borough posted draft 6, but what's online, it's only some summary tables, not a full line item budget workbook like draft 5. That means residents cannot verify staffing, contracts, projects, or other assumption driving the totals. Today's agenda also says table approve or deny, but we don't know what. What exactly is the action today? It doesn't say on the agenda. Are you voting to advertise the budget and comply with the requirements of a 10-day posting? Or are you actually voting the budget? Because if you're voting the budget, then you're against the borough code.
The only thing the Borough Council can do today is to advertise.
Finish.
Yes.
So, on substance, we see the all funds deficit worsens. All we're seeing is you have reduced the millage, but instead, we're raising the deficit. We're not told, what are you doing about it? What has brought us to this situation? And we have seen over the past 4 years, while Michelle has been the borough manager, that we don't do RFPs for everything, including the insurance, from insurance to the yoga instructor. We just pick the yoga instructor that Michelle likes. We need a competitive RFP system that will ensure. So all these millions were burned in the last 4 years. And now you're asking us, and by the way, you had a tax increase last year. And now you're saying, oops, we blew through the millions, now we need you to pay. Without giving us any chance to say something about it. Why are we going through this? And the insurance is notorious. Michelle changed the insurance carrier, and then several months later, we were hit with a $300,000 increase. Now we're told, oh, we saved $100,000 out of those 300. No, we're still 200,000 more than what we were. The budget design. Right now, it appears that not all fire and EMS costs were moved into those funds. If that's true, then show it. You're just putting fire and EMS. But if you really look at the numbers, you're just moving a few of the costs. This is not responsible budgeting. So, and then we have the refuse fund. Also, there are inclarities on the refuse fund. I will submit this. It's just, I cannot go through all of this. Number 4, staffing and service delivery. I'm not here to attack employees, but we have to look at the comparison with other municipalities. We have way too much public works people than compared to Kumru, who has more surface than us, more residents than us. Have we looked at that? Have we looked at Spring? Have we looked at Nuremberg? I have the numbers here. I just don't have time to look through it, but we are overblown with staff. Why? And finally,
You have 1 minute.
yeah. Again, back to procurement discipline. We need a competitive process for procurement. We have not seen this from trash, insurance, you name it. The process here, you people have not been here. Process is, Michelle says, I want to change insurance company. Everybody votes yes, no explanation, nothing goes through. I want to hire a yoga instructor. Nobody said, why her? It goes through. Well, how are you answering this? Thank you, I'm sorry.
Are there any other public comments?
Mary Ann Reardon, 17 Wyomissing Hills Boulevard. I take offense that you're picking on Michelle. Michelle makes a suggestion and everyone looks into it and has to vote on it. I think you're accusing her, which is uncalled for. Also, I'm here because all I heard was 22% increase in the taxes. And so I haven't looked at, what's been on the borough website, but I think that's why a majority of people are here because of the high. When you hear 22%, you're thinking, what's it going towards and where are we spending it? So that's why I'm here. But I do take offense that you're picking on Michelle. That's my comment.
Yes, sir, out in the hallway.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Shane Paisley, 15 Upland Road. When a 22% tax increase is proposed, it's reasonable for residents to ask more than what percentage of the total tax bill is this. Percentages don't pay bills, people do. A 22% increase is still significant no matter how it's framed. It's also fair to ask how a budget deficit aligns with decisions to approve raises and bonuses in any private business that would be considered poor fiscal management. And when revenue is falling short, leadership tightens its belt first. It doesn't ask customers or taxpayers to make up the difference. And that's not politics, guys. That's just basic financial stewardship. Now, this situation doesn't have to be an adversarial one. Most residents want to work with our elected officials, not against them. But we still need transparency, clear explanations, and thoughtful solutions, not messaging that minimizes the real impacts to the taxpayers. And accountability does matter. And residents have a right to expect that officials deliver responsible outcomes, manage taxpayer dollars carefully, and make decisions that reflect the financial reality of the community. And when that doesn't happen, it's also our responsibility to speak up if necessary and demand change. Now, here are just a few alternatives that we really should be exploring. Auditing spending and identifying auditing spending and identify and eliminate wasteful spending. Suspend non-essential capital projects and equipment purchases, excluding those that are critical or safety related. Implement zero-based budgeting. So instead of a last year plus 3% type situation, every department starts at zero, they justify every dollar. Renegotiate overpriced contracts and service agreements. Freeze non-essential hiring and expenses. That means no raises, no bonuses without a balanced budget. Explore consolidating or sharing services with neighboring municipalities. Increase non-tax revenue, fees, rentals, grants, unused assets. Collect any unpaid taxes and fees that were already owed. Pursue state or federal grants, and explore more balanced tax options like perhaps a reasonable earned income tax so the burden isn't placed solely on property owners. Use transparent, and I stress transparent, long-term financial planning instead of last-minute fixes, and evaluate pension and benefit liabilities, which is one of the biggest drivers of municipal deficits in the state of Pennsylvania. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Yes, sir.
My name is John Carter, 1855 Meadow Lane. Recently moved to Wyomissing back in January, and people have created a really special place. It's just a very nice area to be in. The biggest thing that we're impressed with is the parks. Parks and recreation. We really don't want to see anything happen to that. So I encourage the council to move forward with the proposed budget, and please do not cut parking rates.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Jane. I live at 1523 Meadowlark Road. I'd like to know how you come to the budget. You're saying you budgeted so much for this and that. How do you arrive at that budget figure? You take last year's and compare what your actual was versus what it is for the future, or how do you come to that?
So each department hands in their wants and needs. We always have contractual obligations with collective bargaining units. So contracts that we have really nothing to control over. We have our police are in the collective bargaining unit, our fire department, and our public works. So the only department that's not in is the 8 or 9 employees. 10 employees that are not covered by a collective bargaining agreement. We try to figure out what we think, what we're going to prioritize. One of the ideas we had a couple of years ago was that we started putting money in reserves for large projects. And the idea was, instead of waiting till a $500,000 project comes about, how about we budget 50,000, I'm using examples, $50,000 a year to apply to that. So are there times where we're using money in a current year that we're never going to spend in that year? The answer is yes. Because we have reserves set up for for some of those larger expenses. I think that is prudent to do. Maybe I'm wrong, but we thought it was prudent to do a couple of years ago. We did find this year that one of our, which one was it? The MS?
MS4.
So the MS4, we may have put too much money into it, or it got pushed out a little bit further by somebody out of our control. So we released some of those reserve funds into unreserved funds. But the reality of it is each department comes with a budget. We have a starting point with salaries, health insurance. Our health insurance went up 19%. We're looking at other costs. The borough isn't any less immune to inflation than we all are sitting here. And at the end of the day, we're trying to put something together that is fair so that we're not cutting police department, fire department, public works. We're not cutting the parks or the rec or doing streets. We want to do all those things. What we used to do for streets compared to where we were years ago, 5 years ago, is pales in comparison because why? The cost of the asphalt, the cost of the work, the cost of their labor is going through the roof. So we're trying to adjust for these things and try to set aside money for larger expenses. And if we decide that we didn't want to do that somewhere down the road, so be it. But I think it's a prudent way to look about budgeting when we know we have a $600,000 or $700,000 bill coming up in 3 years, 4 years. We think it was prudent to start putting money away to make it unreserved, to make it a reserve fund.
So when you over budget, where does that money go? Does it go into the next year after that, or are we paying for that?
Well, when we over budget, you're talking about over budgeted for those reserves, we dumped it back into the unreserved part, so that would help with tax increase.
Does that affect us?
It gives us how many of that was $200,000? We removed $200,000 from reserve funds to unreserved funds. So therefore, it helped. Even with the 1.25 mils, it still helped.
Okay, so I'm also concerned about the 22% increase,
Understood.
and I think you could also plant less trees.
Okay, are there any other public comments?
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm willing to have a cherry drive. I don't think the borough, and I don't think anybody here thinks the borough is immune to the expenses and going up. I think you're just more accountable because you're accountable to us because you dip it in our pockets for the money for us to pay for it. And I think there were some questions that came up that we didn't hear answers to. And those questions were about how we got here. When 4 years ago, we seemed to have had a surplus and now we don't. And I'm not picking on anybody. I don't know who was the budget manager back then.
I'll say in general, we heard from the public that we have money in reserves while we're raising taxes. So we started using the reserves to help offset paying any future taxes. We've gotten to a point where our auditor says we should have 3 months worth of wage or 3 months worth of expenses. We're going to break that a little bit, but we've gotten to this point because we heard from the people in the past, and I agree, if you have reserves, why raise taxes? Well, we had to do a little blending of both, but we've gotten to the point now that if we want our services to be the way they are, when your one department in emergency services increases by 33% of staffing, and each of those people probably cost well over
$500,000 at the time for 3 new employees.
that became the budget constraint, which is why, quite frankly, I wanted to put in the fire tax and the EMS tax so that we know where we're spending those dollars. We're not spending it on planting trees, even though I think planting trees is important. That is a separate budgeted item.
Can I add something to that, Steve, to address some non-factual information that was commented a few minutes ago? Between 2013 and 2019, and this is part of, I think, draft 2 worksheets, the borough did not raise taxes between 2013 and 2019. You have 3 collective bargaining agreements. Each are negotiated once every year. So in 6 years, you had 3 contracts negotiated twice. That alone, you should have raised taxes at that point in time, at least a quarter, if not half a mil. Taxes were raised in 2019 and 2020. Again, not in 21, not in 22. 2 of those 3 contracts were again renegotiated that year. 68% of our budget is contractual personnel costs that we can do nothing about. And in regards to the comment about RFPs, I think the finance meeting minutes, as well as the individual's own recording that he took at that meeting, clearly showed that I had gone out and asked for quotes for 3 companies. It was discussed in multiple public meetings, and it was ultimately approved by council. The reason we have an increase of approximately 30% to our insurance rates for 26 is not because of the broker that we're with. We have attempted to shop carriers. We have had significant claims that I, as management, have absolutely nothing to do with, that are unfortunately part of what we're looking at for expenses for next year. And we have, I think, from a disciplinary management standpoint, dealt with those accordingly.
And if I can also, the implication was that contracts are not put out to bid. We put out to bid the refuse and recycling contract for 3 years beginning this coming January. We got competitive bids. The borough manager is the one who sent out a blast email to prospective refuse companies to encourage them to bid. We had a pre-bid meeting so that everybody understood what we were looking for. And as a result, the successful bid, the lowest bid, will have prices in 26 which are lower than the refuse and recycling collection prices we're paying in 23. So we are doing what we can through competitive bidding. Does everything go out with an RFP? No, but not, as we're looking at contracts, that's certainly something we should consider. But there absolutely was competitive bidding for these contracts.
Well, I would just like to counter that comment. We only tried to put out 1 RFP over the last 4 years.
That was for professional services.
Doesn't matter. We only put out 1 RFP with regard to any of the vendors that we have that we could have put RFPs out there for. And years ago, we did RFPs for every one of our vendors and our employed individuals that we had for work that's performed here. RFP'd everyone to make sure we had the best bid and the best people. So to say we have all these RFPs, we had one, and that one was automatically thrown out the window, and the person that brought it in was castigated for going out and getting an RFP. And we just went ahead and picked somebody anyway. So,
You wish to clarify, Ron?
yeah, I'll clarify it. We asked for an RFP for picking our next solicitor, and Jana Barnett went out and got an RFP, which, if you understand RFPs, if you want an RFP from any entity, they'll have one to you in 15 minutes, because that's what they do for a living. They give you an RFP. We got an RFP from Jana. It was summarily dismissed, and we picked somebody out of a hat.
See, that's concerning. Maria Lockman, 24 Hawthorne Road. That's concerning to me. Saying all these RFPs. And to your point, RFPs are important because we need to put the bid out so we get the best price. So as a taxpayer, I'm only here because I had an hour off of work that I could come in here, but I work for a living. 22% on my property taxes is a huge hit for me. I live alone. I'm a single woman living alone on my little street, and 22% property taxes is unconscionable. So what I would like to say, please do not interrupt, like Bill said to him, we'd like a forensic accounting. We're at this place, we feel like we have a voice because of the current administration in the White House, that we actually have a voice now, that we don't have to just sit here and put up with the BS that's happening at local council. You don't make eye contact with people when they disagree with you. You only make eye contact when they agree with you. I noticed that, Bill, and I don't like that. Look in my eyes. Look in my eyes. I am one of the constituents. I am paying over $7,000 in property taxes. I know that's school taxes. I know that's not all affected. But the bottom line is, you need a forensic accounting. We do need to go out for RFP for all of these different bids. We do need to see it. And I know this is the only council meeting, but 1 o'clock, I'm sorry, on a Monday is not a good time for me. I work. So make them at 6 o'clock at night. That's all I have to say. I respect your time and I apologize for being angry, but I am angry. And I love the points that you made and that the other guy with the cell phone, 15 Upland, I love you. You're awesome. You live right down the street from me. I'm coming to your house. Thank you, everybody.
I think one clarification needs to be made that our books are audited by Herbine annually. And every year we get a clean report.
I don't know what that means.
That means we've done nothing wrong and everything is appropriate.
But who sees it?
It's welcome to all to see. It's
I'm not an accountant.
Me neither.
Steve, do we see?
I just
the other.
Yeah, I want to hear.
I just want to clarify.
Ms. Reimer.
Your $7,000 property tax bill is about 70% school tax.
I know that. I
It's
know
about
that.
20%.
You don't have to.
Right, so the 22% tax hike is not on your entire bill. It's on 10% of your bill. So if your bill is $10,000, 10%,
I own 2 properties and both of them are increasing.
it's 11%. It's on 11%.
That's enough. You've had your turn, Mr.
It
Jady.
is a small portion of your tax. I understand. But what I want to clarify is, WFMZ quoted a gentleman who was here, and I feel for him, and I feel for everybody. Prices have gone up. But the quote was that his tax bill was going to increase by $1,500. And that is not true. His tax bill was going to increase by about $175. Because we're only doing 22% increase on the borough portion of that tax bill. So the only increase he was going to receive was about 180. Don't get me wrong, that's an increase, but it's not $1,500 increase. It's $180 increase. So I just want
to throw it on a chart for me because I'm.
It's right there.
So your property tax consists of 70% of the money you pay goes to the school board. You pay them whatever they charge you millage wise. About approximately 20% of your bill goes to the county. Whatever their millage is that they've declared is what you pay them. 10% of that bill goes to the borough. So if your bill is $10,000 a year, about $1,000 of that goes to the borough. So when we increase your $1,000 by 22%, we're asking for another $220, not $2,200. And yes, it's a huge increase. 22% is big. But I just want you all to understand your tax bill is not going up by $1,000. It's going up. If your house is worth $100,000, your tax from the borough will increase 1.25 mils, which is $125. If your house is valued, assessed at $200,000, your tax bill will increase another $125, and it will increase by $250. If your house is assessed at $500,000, your tax will increase by $625.
Just to further clarify that, Jen is absolutely correct. But remember, assessed value is not the value of your home.
Our homes are assessed far
Homes are
lower than they
assessed.
actually are worth right now.
The
They have
current,
not been reassessed.
the current common level ratio, the assessor's office is assigned by the state, is 36%. So if your house is worth on the market $100,000, your assessment would be 36% of it. And that's what the tax millage is applied to.
Correct.
The assessment's on everyone's tax bill.
I had a conversation with a resident over the weekend that lives on Albright Avenue. bought his property 2 years ago for $350,000. I looked up his assessed value yesterday morning. It's $124,600 because the county has not reassessed countywide in 30 years.
So his tax is going to increase by about $140.
And they can't spot reassess.
Correct.
So there was a gentleman here at our last meeting who said that he and his wife depended on Social Security, and he thought that the tax increase would take one of his checks. So I looked up using Zillow. I found the assessed value of the address that he said he lived at. And at this point, he pays $800-something. With a 22% increase, his borough property taxes would go up to $957 per year. For that, he gets 24/7 fire protection, 24/7 police protection. He gets the parks, he gets the recreation, he gets a whole lot of benefits for less than $20 a week for him and his wife. Now, 22% is still 22%, but the value that the taxpayers get is tremendous.
The other clarification I would like to make on Michelle Bear's behalf, a lot of false information, and we've tried to correct this information, but of course, Mr. Jada continues to provide false information through his social media platforms that our past insurance company dropped us. That is so incorrect, it's ridiculous. We actually, we dropped them because of lack of performance. And we shopped around. Michelle found someone to do equal, if not better, job. And we even received an apology from the president of that company saying that they know they were wrong. So, you know, this information of, you know, that they dropped us, it's just wrong. And the whole bunch of it is just fear mongering. And that's enough. That's why everyone is so upset. It's because everyone's taken for what one individual says. So, yes, sir.
My name is Uday Shah. I'm at 310 Spruce Lane. Thank you for the opportunity. I've been a resident for 4 years now, and this has been pretty interesting. 22% tax site notification obviously has rattled everybody here. And as you can see, the participation, as it should be every time, right? Every time you guys have a budget conversation, all these people should be involved. And I think it's time for all of us to kind of work with you all to figure out a way that's more transparent, very easy to understand. What you explained just now about those taxes, I'm pretty sure 90% of people don't know that, right? 70% is school tax and the rest and so forth, right? So to keep it short, no matter how you see this, 22% hike is pretty hard, very difficult to take for most people, as most of them have expressed here. And with the existing economic conditions and inflation and whatever you want to call that, all taken into consideration is pretty difficult. So what I'm thinking is, or perhaps can happen, is explore other options of how we can balance this budget and have this impact not be so hard. And some of the things that has come up in discussions with my neighbors is that can taxes be different for property owners in the borough versus renters? And my also question is that if this 22% tax increase doesn't go through as proposed, what services are the residents going to lose or going to be diminished? Perhaps you might want to explain that, right? Hey, parks are not going to be cleaned, or your trash is not going to be picked up, whatever the case might be. Explain that. And that might help people to understand, you know what, I can't live without this, or water is going to be shut off, or whatever the case might be. And then from there, residents should be able to provide additional input to say, you know what, I can live with little bit less this year, and hopefully you can control the costs, and this hit could be softer, so to say. We understand prices are going up everywhere, right? Every business and every government you ask, input cost, as they call it, is going up. And so are every resident's input costs as well. So anything that you can explain very simply so that a 5 or 10-year-old can understand, and so can all we, would be really helpful instead of us fighting each other.
So-
We got to work together.
Sorry, didn't mean to.
Yes, thank you.
So I think we mentioned this earlier. One of the reasons we can potentially lower the tax increase is because we found out something we were budgeted for, and since the last meeting on Tuesday until this point now, the first public meeting thereafter, is we budgeted $200,000 more this year more in 26 than in 25. We've been told that it's going to be $100,000 more in 26 than in 25. So right off the bat, there's $100,000 that we can reduce off the budget. Fair?
Apart from that, whatever else that you guys can find.
So we got a grant reimbursement that we're getting more grant reimbursement money for than we thought. So we're going to apply that to help reduce the budget also. And then there is another item that I don't believe I'm at liberty to speak about.
And again, I echo everybody else's thing. Please don't do Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock. I got to run for my 2 o'clock right now. And
Me too.
please have another meeting in the evenings. The more people you allow to participate and give input and help them understand, the more easy the process is going to be. Thank you.
Hi, Barry Malloy, 325 Greenbrier. First of all, those comments were great. They weren't confrontational. It's just like, the best thing you can do is what you just did there, telling us, I didn't know that stuff. It made it a lot easier to understand. This is not as devastating as it might seem to most people in the community. But one specific, since I'm ignorant on most of the issues, the one issue that I'd like to ask about is the health insurance is going up for everybody. And that's a devastating cost for any business, like the borough costs. I'm not sure what you have for that, but have you guys considered self-insuring some of the deductibles in order as a way of keeping the costs down? We have 225 employees, and we've done that, and it saved us a lot of money.
I can help you with that.
Good, thank you.
The whole plan is self-insured. The whole plan. I know exactly what you're talking about. You have a higher deductible. The company reimburses a portion of the deductible, and you go from there. We are in a consortium with multiple other communities throughout in Berks County. It's called PIMIC. It's the Pennsylvania Health Municipal Insurance Cooperation or something. Give me, not held perfect on that, but it's the Pennsylvania Municipal Health Insurance something. So we're in with many other communities.
And do the employees have deductibles?
The employees have, I will tell you, they have negotiated deductibles that are in with the health.
Self-insured by the communities.
But it's all self-insured. Now, with the PIMIC plan, there's also help because you're getting together in a consortium so that if there is a astronomically large claim, I have seen $3-4 million claims in my lifetime, that is help being absorbed by that consortium. So to go out and be self-insured for a group that has roughly 55 people is financially, it could be financial suicide, but by joining the consortium, we were able to elevate those numbers and spread risk.
How big is that consortium? Just Berks County or?
There's a Berks County one, there's one in Lancaster County, there's a bunch of them all over the
About
place.
15 of them.
Is there a benefit to making that consortium larger to have more pull?
Well, we don't have any control over making it larger. The reality of it is they're paying based on claims at Capital Blue Cross. So whatever the negotiated level with Capital Blue Cross is, there's a stop loss level, there's an aggregate level. So we're capped if there's a certain amount of claims that go over, even if it's not one in particular person. If it's a bunch of people that have $30,000 claims, there's a cap on the tail and there's a cap on the top end of the limit.
Hey, thanks.
We also, am I allowed to say it about the new agreement? Has that been approved? No, the Parks and Rec.
Yeah, you voted on
Was
it.
it-
Yeah, so
It was part of the council packet.
The Parks and Rec, they went out and found a national, they reassigned themselves. They decided to go to go to the Teamsters. To me personally, on the board, it's a personal item, so, with the captive that we're in for the majority of the employees here, if we have a good year, you get rebates back, not rebates, that's a bad word, you get dividends back. So if you get the dividend back, it helps offset your increases for the following year. We will be eliminated from having that possibility, but the rates were significantly lower, and we were able to negotiate a cap on the increase in the next couple of years.
So
So we actually
that's the
helped
way to go
bring
for the
the
rest of
cost,
the-
we actually helped bring the cost of the plan down, even though we got outside of that consortium for that particular
the
unit.
consortium routinely been a better deal for the borough?
Routinely been, yeah, because they just aligned with the Teamsters, so it was a new proposition for them. But,
Thank you.
yeah.
Any? Yes, sir.
My name's John Larkin. I live at 1552 Reading Boulevard. I've been a resident of Wyomissing since 1977. I moved here from a suburb of New York, actually in 71, and thought I had died and gone to heaven. This is a phenomenal community. It's one of the best kept secrets in southeastern Pennsylvania. Regarding the budget, obviously a 22% increase on anything is horrific, and I think everybody can understand that. The fact that it's on a relatively small portion of our tax base makes it a little more palatable. I stopped digging into financial stuff several years ago when I retired, and I have no desire to question the council on how they've arrived at their numbers. But since the last 10 years, the CPI is up 38%. I'm not sure what our millage is up in that 10-year period. Maybe somebody has an idea. But we had at least 2 years, and maybe even 3, with no increase. That's impossible to run anything with no increase. And one other comment on the side, Michelle Bear is one of the finest municipal employees I've ever run into, and I've lived in a lot of towns. So as tough as it is, certainly on some people, old people like me, I'm not complaining, but I know that a lot of people, certainly it will impact them. But we elected this borough council, and we now have a new slate. Maybe they'll do things differently, but I'm sorry, folks, I have no complaints.
Thank you, John. I believe there was another public comment back there from someone. Oh, she left? Okay. Are there any other public comments?
I just have one quick one. I'll be fast. I started following the borough closely in 2021. I ran in 2021 and was not elected. I ran again in 2023, so I've been sitting at the table for 2 years now. Many years ago, it is my understanding, and anybody on council who's all been here longer than me can dispute me. Many years ago, we had about a $12 million fund balance. I don't know how it got that large, but that's what we had. So what council did, rather than increase your taxes when there was such a large budget there, they just kind of moved forward, and we did not increase taxes from 2013 to 2019, you said? So all of the services you've received over the course of those years were taking out of our fund balance. We were paying more than we were charging for many years. So everybody became very comfortable with, these are all the things you get in Wyomissing for this price. The problem is, for the last 2 years, I've been complaining that we keep running it down, and now it's getting so small that within a couple of years, if we continue to only bring in X amount of revenue and continue to spend it the way we are and give you everything you want, we will run out of money. And now we will have to go borrow a whole bunch of money in order to sustain the borough. So I understand it's a huge tax increase this year, but it should have been done over the years. The problem is now we're sitting at this point, and if we want to continue to have all the services we have to pay for them. We no longer have all that piggy bank full of money. We no longer have. It's been well spent over the last 10 plus years. So that's my input as to where we're at this point. We got a lot of things for many years, basically without paying for them.
The deficit's not new. The ability to pay the deficit is.
That's the change. That's the change. Now, we also separated from Spring Township, or they severed the ties, I believe, if I'm accurate. They severed ties with us on the fire department. So now we have to run our own fire department. That costs a lot of money. We needed to buy a fire truck. That costs a lot of money. All those things on top of the fact that taxes weren't increased regularly, and you've got unions who need, it all added up until finally now we're here, and now you all know about it. But it's been like this for many years. We've run, and some years we tried to run $1 million deficit, but we ended up with a $500,000 surplus because, we're only making educated guesses as to what all of these things are going to cost. We have to put everything out to bid, and maybe it comes in under budget. Maybe we rebid it. Maybe it comes in, This council has done a great job over the years. I've watched, like I said, since 2021 with everything they've done. But we've been spending money that in an unsustainable fashion to give you all what you want.
Further to what Jen was explaining, that fund balance was created over many years. We have had what we have found is that the council's primary responsibility is to the residents. But we also have found that it's the commercial district that pays a lot of the bills. And the commercial district has gone through a significant change. The borough started out with the Wyomissing Industries, knitting mill stuff and all that dissipated. They were repurposed, a lot of that area was repurposed as the outlet stores. At one point, we had 6 million visitors a year coming in here to visit the outlet stores. Outlet stores changed because other municipalities said, hey, maybe we ought to have an outlet store. And now they are everywhere instead of being concentrated as they once were here. So we had to reinvent the commercial district again in order to attract that economic redevelopment. We had to make sure we were ready for it. That meant making sure that our infrastructure was up to speed. That's the streets, the water system, the sewer system. So we had to do a lot of infrastructure work to get ready to reinvent the borough for that third time. The fund balance was built up because our borough engineers gave us educated assumptions of what the cost of those things would be. We created 5-year plans. And we came down from the top, all right, we'll be able to do these 3 water projects, these 2 road projects. We used those 5-year plans. But the borough engineer's estimate turned out to be higher than the bids we received. So the budget reflected the borough engineer. The bid came in lower in many instances. Why did they come in lower? Frankly, a lot of the contractors like dealing with us because we tend to pay our bills promptly. That's not always the case in municipal government. So we had that surplus from that bidding process of doing the redevelopment infrastructure work. That went into that fund. And that fund over some years, as we were getting ready for the redevelopment, built up. So now we were in a position to be able to go out and properly look a developer in the eye and say, you ought to come to Wyomissing. And we started out with the Wyomissing Square project over here, which was the former Textile Machine Works property. That led us to the knitting mills, which was the former knitting mills and then the outlet stores. That included the medical school, Telflex, high-tech medical
device maker. Now we're looking at the redevelopment of the Berkshire Mall. We have the Berkshire Mall, its tax assessment fell from a high, Michelle, of
55 million down to
5
5.
million to what it's currently at, about 5 or 5.5, something like that. That's a significant impact on the taxes that are then revenued. We've already talked about how assessments are arrived at. Your assessments were appealed, they went down fantastically, or that's not a good word, I guess, they went down drastically. Now we're looking at, I can honestly say to you that help is on the way. The redevelopment of the Berkshire Mall is not going to happen overnight, but in a few years it will. And that means those assessments not only will go up dramatically, but the mercantile taxes generated will also improve dramatically. So I honestly feel very strongly that the redevelopment work that we initiated with Wyomissing Square and the Knitting Mills, now going over to the Berkshire Mall, will put us in a financial position that will be the envy of all other municipalities in Berks County.
But see if I may, one reason that they want to come to Wyomissing is on the strength of how good the borough was to work with on these previous projects. So that speaks to how cooperative they thought borough council was, the mayor was, and the borough staff were.
We are very good to work with in the development community. I've often said that if somebody comes to us with a good idea, we'll find a way to make it happen. We're not going to get hung up on, well, the regulation says there's a that. We'll change the damn regulation. And that has been very successful for us. The other thing, while I'm at it, I want to say is I want to thank Mrs. Reardon and Mr. Larkin for saying complimentary things about our borough manager. I was stunned at last Tuesday's meeting when there were derogatory comments made about the manager and other members of our staff, and not a single person at this table defended them. I apologize to the staff for that on behalf of all of us. That was wrong. I've dealt with countless municipalities through my work with the Center for Local Government here at Albright College and my real estate career. And our staff is second to none. If we chase any of these folks out the door by the way they're treated, they will find new employment within hours. They are the best, and we need to be very pleased that we have such people working for. They serve the pleasure of the council, but obviously they're working for everybody in this room. So we need to be very careful about that. It was not well thought out to in one breath talk about a 22%, perhaps 22% tax increase, and at the same time talk about bonuses. That's really bad optics. And I hope that we've learned from that and we'll do a better presentation in the future. While it is entirely justifiable, the presentation was pathetic. And we can do better than that because we're all better than that. So I'd like to thank the residents for showing up, but I would also like to thank the staff for the work they do. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
Patrick Jones, 12 Wyomissing Boulevard. I think you guys have hard work. 22% is very salty, for sure. But did I hear something like, is it 60% of the budget is really non-negotiable?
68.
68.
Union contract. So next year, we're facing another increase. I mean, 68%, you negotiate another contract, 2% increase in salaries. It's a never-ending.
We wish it was 10%.
Never-ending process. What kind of austerity can we do? Do we need that bloat? I mean, it's only going to get bigger. You know, I mean, is there things that can be cut within the union cycle that, you know, they don't have all the power. Is it all these things, are they necessary? Are we looking at them close enough? I mean, 68% is a big number that you have completely no control over, you know? So next year, you know, I mean, you guys should have been increasing these taxes 2 to 5% annually, period. So, it's foolish to be thinking that we're not gonna get a tax increase. But living here is awesome.
On the subject, I think that, hold on. I think that Steve, who was the head of our finance committee, probably better answer that for you, but I do want to point out one thing. Last Tuesday, when Mr. Reeser, our treasurer, gave his report, part of that report was to tell us all that through the first 11 months of the year, our expenses were down just shy of, $1 million?
$1 million.
And that's because of how hard the staff and the council worked during the course of the year to keep an eye on expenses. The fact that the budget says X does not mean we have to spend X. We were able to come in over our budget for 11 months, almost $1 million under that.
And I commend you for that, but the salaries, those just keep coming.
Yep, those are exactly
And
right.
hiring keeps going.
Steve?
If you don't mind.
All right, go ahead.
You good?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, that's fine. You're right. I sat on some of those negotiating committees, and, our public works aren't getting paid more than any other public works department. Probably when they get their contract, it goes up, and then as other municipalities come along, theirs move up to the top. It's a cycle in a 3 or a 4-year deal. Health insurance costs continue to escalate. I hope I answered the best I could without being overdoing my job about the healthcare costs. The reality of this is, if this tax budget went through at 1.25 mils, if your house is assessed at $100,000, it's $125. I'm not belittling $125. That's not what I'm doing. But it is part of the cost of doing business. It is part of the reason. So I'll give you some examples of things that we do to try to prevent bigger costs later. I'll just give one example. We televise our sewers and water lines so that we can maybe catch a problem before there's a hole in your front yard or you have sewage backed up into your basement. We caught one, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, or Greg, sorry, we caught one by televising on Woodland Road. Oh, that's private property.
And why are we paying for it?
We're not.
We're not.
We're not. So the televising on Woodland Road, you want to come to meetings and watch some film with me? That is some film to watch. Because you're watching sewage. My point is, I agree. So the choice we have is really, do we start cutting employees if we have to, and that means we're cutting services? What we keep forgetting to mention here, and I've been saying this at a bunch of different meetings for many, 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 many months. Our fire department went from having a staff of 3 people on each shift to, over time, it's now going to be 4 people per shift. We had to go out and give you another example. Think surprise stuff. When the fire, and I don't know the right terminology, but when the fire department comes to us and says, we need new tanks, and it's going to be $90,000 to get new tanks. Air packs, sorry, air packs. What are we supposed to do? Say, we don't want our fire department to have proper air packs. It is expensive. Our process is expensive. Our service is expensive. We have a choice. Maybe we're at that point in time where we as a community have to say, okay, we're not going to have a full-time fire department. It would be over my dead body, to be clear. Okay?
And it would
Police
increase-
department.
It would increase your insurance.
The police department, it'd be over my dead body, as long as I'm on this council. Okay? Parks and maintenance. Sometimes people wonder what they're doing. Go watch them. I mean, the other night when we had our snow, I drove through the next morning. I drove through 3 different communities, not because I was looking to pick on anybody. I just happened to go somewhere. And I could get through Wyomissing pretty well. I couldn't get through other places. That all comes with a cost. We have great employees. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. Do I have complaints about union contracts? Absolutely. It's a give and take. But when we have to deal with these types of expenses, we have to say, what services do we want to not have anymore moving forward? And to address your tax before, we should have increased taxes year over year over year. But there were not this many people, but there were people coming to meetings saying, you have $8, $9, $10 million in your budget. Why are you raising taxes? We heard that. We decided not to raise taxes in 2021, 2022. Should we have? I believe if you go back and look at the record, I think people said we should have raised taxes. We didn't. We are now at that point where we can only hold the deficit so long, and we're trying to bring that down. Doesn't mean we're not going to try to find cost-cutting measures. We always will.
Well, on my thoughts here are a couple of things. One, if you have 68% that we can't play with, it's the other 32 that gets us in trouble. We love grants around here. It costs money to do grants. And not only does it cost money for somebody to sell us a grant, but then we got to throw in the money to make this thing work. We've done several projects around here. Stonehouse project, we've done that one. We do this bike rack project, which if we looked at how many people in Wyomissing ride those bikes, there's probably 6 of us that ride those bikes, and everybody else that comes to Wyomissing rides those bikes, and we're paying for them. The Stonehouse, the same thing. The Stonehouse is looking pretty good for the last 100 years, but we spent a lot of money on the Stonehouse. We spent money on, what else we got here? Well, that's a good start. There's a whole lot of grants coming in here that we don't need to do grants. We have a very nice community here. I think this gentleman said he's been here, it's great. Oh, I know the one thing.
You don't need to sell the community.
We're advertising this community all over the community, and we're already a community. We don't need 3,000 people at a Halloween program at Happy Hollow because we advertise for it. That's great. It doesn't cost us anything except for the advertising. It does cost us for John Phillips to figure out, what do I do if something happens around here and there's 3,000 people, and the 3,000 people that live here are wondering, where did all these people come from? We really don't need to make this any larger than it is. We like the size of this community, at least I do. The rest you disagree with me, take it up with some of the other people around here, because we love these grants. I think grants ought to be the one thing we don't do for the rest of the year. No grants. If there are no grants, and if you go back and look at how much all these grants cost, you'll probably find that most of you probably wouldn't be in this room right now because it would cover the amount of money that our taxes are going up. And that was because of the grants, not because of the hard work that people.
Grants bring in money.
Grants
Grants bring in money.
Some we don't even have to contribute
Listen,
towards.
anybody can have their choice. If they bring in money and the grants I just told you are making you happy, then have some more grants.
Well, look, can we go back? I just want to.
I got to do it. Grants, we hired a grant writer to go out and get us money from the state.
And a lobbyist.
And a lobbyist to get us money from the state. Do we have any idea how much the grants we have received since we have done that process?
I'm gonna say between $7 and $10 million.
Have nothing to do with taxpayer dollars. It has all to do with improving those projects that Mr. Stanko so eloquently put out there. What he forgot to mention is we had to do a borough garage. I'm going to use round numbers.
$3 million.
What's that?
$3 million.
$3 million is what we're going to get back in reimbursements for a project.
2.7.
$2.7 million back for a project that cost us overall.
5.
3.5.
3.5.
5.
About $5 million. So we redid our entire borough garage. We had garages, if you go out to the Highlands, to the Red Barn, go try to see how the trucks fit into those garages. That garage is great. It was built 1,000 years ago, right? The trucks don't fit in it anymore. We're buying stuff and it was unprotected. So we had a grant that's going to give us $3.7 million roughly of a roughly $5 million project.
2.7.
$2.7 million, roughly a $5 million project, of which we haven't got reimbursed a penny for yet, which we're supposed to have, supposedly coming next year now. Those are the things that we're trying to do to help keep costs down. But if we just don't do anything, kicking the can down the road doesn't work.
And if I may.
You may.
Thank you. You talked about perhaps cutting back on staff. Greg can talk with us about how much they save by doing things in-house now, because the guys are so skilled. They had a project recently where I think if you had gone outside, it would have cost 40,000 more than it did through the time and the equipment. And that's just one project, so you can imagine how they pay for themselves. So cutting back staff is not necessarily going to save us money.
I was not suggesting.
I was just looking at you because you happen to be in the perfect spot for me to look at.
I'm just saying that over time, things grow and it has to be managed, that's all.
Agreed.
Sure. But sometimes,
It never gets small.
sometimes not sending it out is the way to manage it. And Greg and the guys do a great job.
Since we're explaining some things here, not to get in too well into the weeds, but a comment was made about water work at the Berkshire Mall. That's not the water system, that's the stormwater system. When the mall was built in 1970, they used galvanized metal pipes. Over time, they've rusted through in an area that's very prone to sinkholes because of the underlying limestone. So we, with the help of Senator Judy Schwank and our Court of Common Pleas Judge Fudeman, forced the current owner of the mall to rebuild the stormwater system. That's private stuff, has nothing to do with the borough spending a nickel. So the fenced off parking areas were a public safety thing because those sinkhole potentials could have hurt people and had cars or trucks falling into them. So we forced the work, but that's not on our dime.
And didn't they reimburse us for some of our costs?
We got 10,000 out of Judge Taylor's office from a settlement agreement for citations that were filed against them for multiple code violations. They are covering all the costs and had to post escrow for daily site inspections while our engineer and their engineer is on site. There's always a cost to litigation. There's always a cost to fight a property owner to do the right thing when they don't want to. But given what could have happened there, I don't think from a public safety aspect, we had a choice.
Okay, are there any other public comments?
I do. I waited till the end. Trying to have everybody had a chance. Sorry, folks. One more time. I've been rather silent so far. I think my name is Rick Weinhofer. I live on 9th Street in the Heights. I appreciate the work everybody's done here. We'd advertised the budget with the tax increase, and I do stand by the work that we did in this chamber. However, with the large number of you that showed up to tell us we need to look at the work again and find a better way, we have to listen to our residents. Unfortunately, there's still going to be a tax increase, and unfortunately, we are still going to run a deficit at this point. But we need to work on developing that plan to tackle it, as so many of you have expressed here today. It is not something new. It is something we have tried to identify, and something I know not only myself, but other council folks are very, very excited to try to get in and do more. However, this is not the first time that I have voted to change something here in this room at the last minute. When we did have the Stonehouse project, we did get some resistance to the parking lot. It went through a number of boards and commissions and committees before making it to council. We applied for grant funds. We spent a lot of time and effort doing all of this. But when we finally got to council to start the work, there were questions. We pumped the brakes, and it cost us more money. We redid the plans. We had to amend the work that we did. We tried to listen to the residents in a compromised situation at that point in time. We thought we were doing the right thing. We thought we're listening to your feedback, but we can only respond to that feedback when it's there. One of the things that we decided to do going forward is on borough projects, we want to make sure we get renderings done. So we do want to try to change how we conduct business based on these things. Part of what I heard in opposition to the budget were all of you asking for more information. We did not do a good job of explaining how this tax increase will impact the regular residents to begin with. Yes, it's in the packet, but that is no longer good enough. We need to work to make better summaries of our work, make better mock-ups of tax bills, and solicit feedback earlier in the process. We cannot keep operating by pumping brakes at the finish line. This needs to be our lesson learned going forward. We have to communicate better to our residents. We have to communicate more frequently with our residents. We have to make this space inviting for questions, disagreements, and collaboration. I don't have all of the answers. I don't know the best way. That's why we work in committees to find the pathway forward.
And unfortunately, sometimes that pathway is not going to be popular. We need to start the budget process earlier. When I put forth the motion to advertise the budget, I stated we need to get this under control before budget season. Saying something and acting on it are two different things. We do have to take a hard look at all of our vendors and contracts, ensuring we're receiving the most competitive price for service. We need to look at requests for proposals to allow for transparency and public input as we move forward. We need to ask every department head to work more diligently than ever to come in under budget numbers. There are ways we can try to reduce the deficit and prepare for 2027. I don't know what the communication solution is going to look like, but we need to find something new to try. We need the residents to be involved earlier in the process. We need a better way to get your feedback instead of 5 minutes at a time at the start or end of a meeting. We have to do better, and I am positive we are going to make this a priority in the new year. I recently had the privilege of volunteering for our Spooky Hollow event. I am the rec board rep here on council. I was on rec board before I was on council. It's something very passionate to me. I've been a longtime resident. I've gone through these events. My Boy Scout projects were selling hot dogs at the Memorial Day parade when I was a kid. I understand all of these things that are going on. One of the things that I do is when we have rec events, I make sure I am one of the last people there. I make sure every table and chair gets put away. You will see me picking up trash and putting it in trash cans. It's a job no one wants to volunteer for. So it's normally where I go. Most recently at Spooky Hollow, I was working to get the games put away, and we had them on the basketball courts, and they had to go to the pavilion. Many people saw me struggling, trying to move these games and these events. Working alone, moving something much heavier than I should have on my own. I can be rather stubborn when it comes to that sort of thing. Lots of people saw me and did nothing to help at that point in time. I did have one of the soccer parents, though. He came up, he saw what I was doing, and said, let me help. And he helped make sure every game and every table and every chair got put away that day. That's the environment we need to foster. We need to foster collaboration. We need to foster assistance. We have to get there. We need everybody in this room and everybody not in this room. Your voices are important. I don't do this because I envy sitting at this table. It's kind of something that's given me so much consternation over the past week. I want to be able to do what's right for everyone. And unfortunately, we're not always going to agree on what the best pathway forward is, but we have to try to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Okay. Any other public comments? Okay, not seeing any indications. I'll close the public comment section of the meeting for agenda items, and we'll move on to item number 4, discussion of the 2026 budget.
So we've identified $100,000 roughly of insurance savings over the last week. That has nothing to do with timing of these meetings. We've realized an increase of a reimbursement on a grant that isn't our money, but we'll take it, of an additional how much?
$250-ish.
$250,000. And we found a personnel issue where we'll be spending less, totaling about $120,000. I'll make a recommendation that instead of raising the taxes to 1.25, we'll adjust it by those numbers, and I'm going to make it 0.9.
Do you want to clarify what's going to what? Meaning,
All I would do is I would leave the road tax where it is, if it's possible. You got to help me out on this one. Fire tax has to stay where it is, in my opinion. So tell me when I'm getting the too many numbers.
Well, if you reduce it 500,000, that's a $500,000.
My recommendation is 35 basis points, which is $350,000.
So that, now you're down to 0.75.
No, you're not.
0.2.
1.25 minus 0.35 is 0.9.
Based on the assessed value of the borough and times the millage, it's about $500,000. But
0.9.
Yeah, the 500,000 is about half of
I'm
it.
not talking $500,000.
Right.
I'm talking about from 1.25 to 0.9, which is 0.35, which is $350,000.
I thought we were up to 500 when you were talking.
And that's just because of numbers we found out. Because of the budget starting when it did, we didn't know these numbers yet.
Right, I understand that. Yep.
0.9 is less than the proposed enactment of the fire tax and the EMS tax. So would you like to reduce one of those two taxes?
We're gonna have to.
Yeah, spending half.
The money that we're saving is coming out of the general fund, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll reduce that. What's the newest one, the road tax and the fire tax?
The road tax.
Fire.
EMS and fire.
Existed, but we had.
Has everybody read what's happening with the EMS in the newspapers lately, or on WFMZ, or with Tony Tucci, or do we really want to not support our EMS services? Okay. The fire tax was an idea of the committee that we want to be able to show to the community that we're using it for fire. And by the way, EMS also supports the police department. So do we really want to cut money out of the fire department or do we want to cut the service staff? Can we do it? We can't even do it contractually, but we could do it over time. I think the answer is no. So the EMS tax was how much?
0.5.
And the fire service tax was?
0.5.
Okay, then I'll change my recommendation to making it that we reduce taxes from 1.25 to 1.0 mils so that we can fully support our fire and EMS services.
Keep in mind that 1 mil does not fully
Doesn't cover it,
support
but
our fire.
that is where everybody's
It
taxes.
is a part, but at least that money is
100%
coming
of the tax increase will be going to support our
specifically that.
EMS, our police, and our fire.
Exactly.
The next committee, the next council is going to have to figure out a way to close the gap in the deficit. But that's my recommendation.
Phyllis, how does this change the deficit?
The illustration here shows just the enactment of the new taxes with no increase to road nor general. So it takes the draft 5, which we had originally proposed and advertised, of 938. I found a reduction of 8,000 based on some longevity payments that would not be made on separated employees, which brought it down to 930. So we would be comparing 930 as a deficit to a deficit of 1,184,000.
This isn't including the insurance.
That does not include the insurance.
The grant reimbursement.
Nor the grant reimbursement.
Or the other anticipated savings.
So we're taking the other 0.25% of the tax that we had proposed the other night. We're going to reduce it by the amount basically offset by the stuff we have found over the last week. We are going to support our fire department, our police department, and our EMS.
So essentially, we should stay at a deficit of around 930.
Correct.
Which is 9/10 of a mil. Not one, it's 9/10.
All down the road, if you're not changing the deficit.
It's absolutely kicking
It
the
is.
ball down the road. But maybe we'll find a way to, when the community wants to get involved in the budgeting process, which is great, I think that's fantastic. Then they're going to have to make a decision on what's going to get cut, because it's going to be not fun. But hearing what we heard today, I am 100% in favor of supporting our fire department, our police department, our EMS. Okay, when the ambulance shows up in 1.2 minutes, or the fire department shows up in 1.2 minutes, or the police department shows up in a minute, I don't want that to end. I don't know that anybody really does. 1 mil for every $100,000 of assessed value. Assessed value. I ask you to go home and look at what your assessed value is versus what you could sell your property for. So for me, anybody can go look it up if they want. It's going to cost me $300 to keep my police in force, my EMS in force, my fire department in force, and at this point, keeping all of our normal traditions and road services intact.
Making that motion.
I am making the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second.
So for clarification of what this is going to do. So at this point, we are making a change to the advertisement of this budget, and we're advertising a new budget. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll need to re-advertise the budget and re-advertise the tax ordinance.
Great.
10-day period. So the week of the 29th of December, we'll have to have a special council meeting for the actual enactment of the tax ordinance and approval of the final budget.
And the actual increase is what?
1 mil, which is $100 per $100,000 of assessed value of your property,
That's the problem.
not your market value.
Yeah, no, but you,
Okay.
numbers don't.
Any further questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Brunner?
Yes.
Councilmember Stanko?
Yes.
Councilmember Reimer?
Yes.
Councilmember Mogul?
Yes.
Councilmember Barnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Weinhofer?
Yes.
Council President Jenks?
Yes.
Can we set the time of the special council meeting?
Sure.
Unless, you're shaking your head, you want to wait?
I thought you said have we, and that's why I was shaking my head.
No. Well, I need to do an advertisement.
Set a time right now?
Yeah,
I would propose the 29th, but that's up to you.
what day of the week?
That's
It's a Monday.
It's not my committee, so I don't have to make the decision, right? But I'm okay with the 29th. What else do I have to do that day?
We don't have fire and police that day. You're right.
No,
It's my father's birthday.
please, 6 months.
Is there any
Excuse me,
issue to us holding that in the evening?
Trying to get to that.
Whenever you want.
Okay. Let's do that in an evening session,
You tell us what time. 6?
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, special council meeting, same time as always.
29. Yeah.
So it has to be advertised by the 19th.
Phyllis, when will
Do
you
we approve it?
be able to post?
Yep. It was unanimous.
Was it not?
Imagine that.
When will you be able to
Proof
post?
to advertise.
So I know that I can reference the availability and the notice?
I'll start working on it this afternoon and tomorrow, get it finalized quickly.
My notices will be in the paper on Wednesday.
Beautiful.
So by Wednesday, it'll be on our borough website that you can look at it, or you can come in here and see it, right?
It is just a day.
My very best.
Auditions, okay. Financial.
Do our best.
holidays.
We'll do our best to have it up on the borough website as fast as possible. How's that sound?
It's also available at the library also. Okay.
You need those papers I gave you.
We are now
And not again.
back into public comment, having to deal with items that were not on the agenda. Anybody wish to make any public comments, non-agenda items? Okay, I do not see any.
They're here. Adrian Jadik again. Mr. President, let me start this way. Showing documents is not fear mongering. Only for people who are afraid of those documents, it may be. Back to what was discussed, Michelle claimed that there were problems with the old insurance company. That was on record. When I did a right to know request, there were no documents to sustain that claim. That's what was shown. I don't know how that is fear-mongering. You also claimed at the beginning of the meeting that the old company, Loomis, apologized to us. Where is the document, sir? Did he just apologize to you? Because you shouldn't be having those conversations as a council president. And this is one thing you have not understood all this time. You don't make these deals. You just preside this.
Enough with personal attacks.
It's not a personal attack. These are facts, sir.
Very
Facts are
personal.
not personal attacks. So, and there has been absolutely no quote from any insurance company. There is no documented quote, and if you say there is a quote, the public should be able to see it. Right? Well, there was no quote. And when we heard about the insurance, right, hike, we still did not get a quote. And another right to know is, since Jana, you're so proud of the refuse, which was not part of the budget, by the way. Michelle, on her own, extended the contract with Mascara for landfill, although she was told, voted by council, to ask for RFP. She goes and she extends that contract. No notification, no public issue, no, didn't bring it to council, didn't bring it to anything. This is what the documents show. Didn't notify anybody. So where is Mary? She's gone. I'm not accusing anybody. I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just stating what the documents show. Why did Michelle extend that contract without notification, without any public information? This was a 10-year contract. Yes, it was a 10-year contract, Michelle. You gave me the documents. That was extended another 5 by her with her signature alone. And our solicitor saw it. And that caused us to have this bid in which Waste Management asked, where are we taking this? And they were told to Mascara. Then they didn't bid. Nobody does that. Nobody. You don't hire Waste Management, which is a national company, and tell them, no, you know what? You got to take the trash to where we tell you. Do you bring a contractor and say you got to use my tools and my screwdrivers? No, you don't. You just bring the contractor. That's what all the other boroughs and municipalities do. They bid the whole package because that particular contractor may change the landfill. It's not our business where they take the trash. Maybe they take it to the moon. Not our business. So this is what happens. Nobody's attacking anybody, Bill. We have documents that you provide. Okay? Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.